I wanted to talk a little bit more, just before we move on to some other subjects, John, about Trump's strategy. His trolling of Canada, your neighbours to the north. Now, I got to admit, I found that quite amusing when he first started talking about Governor Trudeau, but it's gone, in my opinion, way too far now. And I think whatever strategy he's playing at has led to it's backfiring now. It's led to a wave of nationalism in Canada.
Yes.
I wonder what you're seeing over there.
Yeah, I have to tell you, my own view is same as yours. It was kind of funny. He was trolling. We thought he was trolling Trudeau. He's never liked Trudeau. He's called him names. He called him a pipsqueak and just stupid, childish names. Trudeau always held his temper. He never really said anything publicly. And it was funny when Trump called Trudeau the governor of Canada.
Yeah, it was.
But then on a hot mic, Trudeau was heard saying to Carney, who's now the prime minister, that Trump is serious about this idea of just taking Canada. And so the Canadians needed to be alert and to watch him, whatever it is he was planning to do. Well, Ford, not Bob Ford, but the brother, the one who's the governor of Ontario province now, said something the other day that was actually Doug Ford. It was actually funny, but funny in a serious way, in that he said, "You want to annex Canada? Go ahead. That'll give us 6 seats in the House of Representatives and 2 Senate seats, and the Republicans will never win an election again in America."
Touche.
Yeah, touche. Go ahead. We'll all vote for the Democrats, he said. I'm actually more worried about Greenland. You know, the United States has an air base in Greenland. It's had one for many, many years. Greenland is for lack of a better word, a colony, a protectorate of Denmark. Denmark, of course, is a NATO country. Everybody thought Trump was joking or trolling when he said he wanted to take Denmark 8 years ago, but he keeps bringing it up. And it turns out that Denmark is rich in rare earth metals, and Trump has this obsession now with rare earth metals. Ukraine has rare earths. The United States has some, but far less than what we need. We buy most of it from Central Africa. But it's all refined in China, all of it. To refine rare earth metals is very, very expensive, to the point where it's a money-losing proposition. But the Chinese are willing to take that loss if they can maintain a monopoly on the refining. So I think in the back of his mind, Trump sees this as a long-term problem, correctly, most likely. But to correct the problem, the solution is not to invade Canada or to invade Greenland. But then you get these stupid followers, like this congressman. There's a junior congressman from the state of Georgia, Republican congressman from the state of Georgia, who 2 weeks ago sponsored a bill, House Resolution 1116, which calls for the president to take Greenland by any means necessary and to change the name of Greenland to Red, White, and Blue Land.
Oh, it's just ridiculous.
Isn't it, though? And it's bad for our foreign relations. Now, the Danes are worried. The Greenlanders, I didn't even realize Greenland had a prime minister, but they called a special election just last week, and they elected somebody. The parties came together in Greenland, and they elected somebody whose whole platform would be to oppose any attempt by the United States to take any part of Greenland. But this is nuts. We shouldn't be thinking about stuff like this. We should be thinking instead about sitting across the table from the Iranians, or reopening our embassy in Havana, or something that's going to, encourage peace in the world.
It's one thing to go out there and put an ambit claim. You see a lot of unions do that, for example. When they want a big pay rise, they'll go for something outrageous. But we see some of these statements that he seems to be making. Maybe he might have got a short-term sugar hit from that, but I think cooler heads prevailing now. I can't see what he's playing at here. The tariffs is another one that's interesting. That's not playing well here in Australia. He's just decided to put a 25% tariff on steel that we export to the US.
Crazy.
It's probably one of the few things we do export to the US. We bring in far more from the US, so we're no threat to you guys.
No way.
It's not going to play well long term. And interestingly, politically, if the strategy might have been to troll Trudeau and make him so unpopular that people would perhaps switch in the next election in Canada to a like-minded person in the form of Pierre Poilievre, who's a conservative.
Right.
That's backfiring on him now.
It's
and
backfiring.
You see it here. We're about to come into a federal election period here in Australia where the Conservative leader here, Peter Dutton, is already now being touted by his opposition as being, well, he's a friend of Trump. He's an Australian Trump. And you don't want that. You want to stick with us, the Labor Party, who's currently in power here. So, if that was Trump's strategy, it's not working.
I have a cousin in Greece. I'm a dual U.S. Greek citizen now. And I have a cousin in Greece who was elected governor of the Dedekinis Islands, with the island of Rhodes being the biggest and most populous, our ancestral island. And he's a socialist. And he said that his Conservative Party colleagues are very worried about Trump for the reason that you just explained. They're afraid of being tied to Trump, if only because they happen to be conservatives. And they're afraid that that association is going to drag them down in the next election. We're already seeing it if you look at the public opinion polls in Canada, where the Liberals were thought to be headed for a beating, and now they're just about even in the polls again. And Carney has an actual chance of winning this thing. I think the same thing, as you just said, is happening in Australia. I think that Trump's unpopularity is what is keeping Keir Starmer so high up in the polls in the UK. It's going to backfire.
Yeah. And Keir Starmer is, at least in my view, is a disturbingly.
He's nothing. Yeah. He's nothing.
It bothers me. I mean, I can understand why the Brits. This is probably sidetracking a little, I guess, but I can understand why the Brits wanted to move away from the Conservative government who broke so many promises. But to go to a totalitarian clown like this, no, it doesn't sit well with. We can go on for hours about that.